Memo. A misunderstood disconnect. Shooting, wars, unemployment, Trumps, tariffs, looting, housing crisis, an affordability crisis, elections, protests. Does it not feel like the world around us just keeps on getting worse and worse? However, if we slow down and breathe and zoom out and look at the bigger picture, the truth is that by nearly every meaningful measure, today's world offers opportunities our ancestors couldn't have imagined. We live longer, healthier lives. We have access to information that would have been considered magical just a century ago. We can travel further, communicate instantly across continents, and solve problems that once seemed impossible. I wonder if given a chance to be reborn into a random family 500 years ago, or today, how many could give up modern life's perks in exchange for the life of the past? Despite our complaints about modern life, I suspect most of us wouldn't trade places with even the wealthiest merchants of the 1500s. However, when change is slow and fear is easy to invoke, it's much easier for all of us to forget this. So why does it feel like everything is falling apart? The answer lies in a simple business truth. Fear sells. Media companies have figured out the fact that we are more drawn to chaotic news than normal news ages ago. Think about it from a media company's perspective. Which headline draws more clicks? Tomorrow will be much like today, or the world is ending tomorrow. The choice is obvious. Media companies aren't evilly, I hope. They're responding to market incentives. Legacy media corporations compete fiercely for our attention against Netflix, YouTube, video games, and countless other distractions. Sensational news is their competitive advantage. Social media companies are also competing in the space. Their solution encapsulates you in a media feed bubble with personally catered machine learning algorithms that feed you more of what you already believe or are interested in. We don't like being shown where we are wrong, and we tend to pay attention to things we like. It got so extreme that me and my friend have developed a running joke that we could interact with one subset of a topic with a single point of view, and our whole feed will transform into supporting information of that chosen idea. If you don't believe me, try it. Log into Instagram or Facebook and start spending time only on cat videos. Soon, your whole feed will be cat videos and nothing else. You could do the same for singular sport teams, a singular TV show, a singular side of a political spectrum, or a singular perspective of war, and so on and so on. This is very fascinating and dangerous stuff, and whether it brings value to society remains to be determined. What prompted me to think about this possible misunderstanding disconnect of opinion was reading Eva Du's The House of Huawei. Her book is an autobiographical account of China's biggest and most international conglomerate, Huawei. For those not familiar with the company, Huawei is a leading telecommunication company that has its start in producing and selling network switches, and over the years has grown to a huge company selling consumer electronics like cell phones, laptops, tablets, and network technologies, currently 5G infrastructure, and even ventured into software products like AI solutions. Eva Du highlights a paradox in the heart of modern geopolitical tensions, the collision between technological ascendancy and the national security concerns. Throughout her book, it became evident that as Huawei's influence grew, so did the US's pushback against Huawei's expansion. For example, the United States blocks Huawei's expansion of introducing leading telecommunications into unfriendly countries. The United States blocks telecommunication companies from purchasing their hardware from Huawei, such as blocking Sprint in the United States, and is applying pressure on Alphabet to remove Google mobile services, including the Google Play Store and security patches, from Huawei devices. Furthermore, the United States actively threatens countries using Huawei technology with sanctions. Such threats can be sporadically seen in Britain's MI5 and MI6 divisions, with the United States threatening Qantas intelligence sharing if they rely on Huawei infrastructure. This fear was driven by possible Chinese backdoor leaks of security concerns, the very same actions the United States used to monitor its own infrastructure of other countries, which we could see in WikiLeaks. In light of this, the author makes a provocative statement, highlighting that during World War II, the United States' leading technology company, IBM, had no problem selling punch card machines to the Nazis. They were used for military operations and for purposes of the Holocaust. However, when Huawei's infrastructure is sold to developing markets, as true one example was Iran, the United States laid sanctions on the process. Of course, there is not the only example in this disconnect. Before we dive into a few other examples, you may be wondering why the West might have grown tense with the second largest economy in the world. One reason could be that the technological supremacy once held by the United States has been long eroded, causing widespread anxiety and fear. According to the leading Australian intelligence report, ASPI, from August-September 2024 data covering the years 2019-2023, China leads in significant majority of critical technologies such as drones, AI, quantum technologies, batteries, advanced manufacturing materials, robotics, advanced integrated circuit design and fabrication, and space technology. The estimate is that China leads around 89% of technologies, 57 out of 64 technology studies, with the rest 11% dominated by the United States. The reality paints a stark picture of the United States' feeling of security. The report also highlights that 24 technologies, or 37.5%, are at risk of full Chinese monopoly, meaning full intellectual know-how and productions are only possible in China. Take this information as you will. Anyway, this misunderstanding, or frankly double standard, can be seen in many examples. Domestically, the American treatment of its technological giants, Google, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, allows them to act as monopolies and permitting some unfair practices while restricting other nations' platforms, such as TikTok, from gaining foothold in the United States. On the other hand, China, complaining about the treatment of its own companies abroad, does the same by heavily censoring Western media platforms or limiting access to its citizens. Politically, we also observe this, where the same governments can support both democratic and authoritarian regimes. Depending on the situation, the best advances its interests. We can list many companies that state one thing on their mission while doing the opposite to achieve the profits. The reason to highlight these examples, along with those of Huawei and IBM, is to demonstrate that the world is fundamentally complex. You can rationalize almost everything from a different perspective. There's no absolute understanding of who is being hypocritical because different situations prompt various actions and both sides can often be emphasized with. Today, tariffs have become a hot topic, so let's consider a simple problem. Country Alpha is a landlocked country rich in natural resources, bordering country Beta, which has access to a seaport. Beta attacks tariffs on Alpha to protect domestic industries. Alpha sees these actions as aggressive, possibly even an action of economic warfare, while Beta views them as necessary protection measures. Both perspectives make sense from their respective positions. Neither side is inherently wrong or hypocritical. They're responding to their circumstances and interests. With news around the world, it's easy to see every friction as a downward spiral. But that's just the grinding of life. Circling back to the introduction, the purpose of this memo is not to take a side to suggest that any particular corporation or country is blameless, but rather to provoke readers to think through what one believes in and be open-minded of new perspectives and viewpoints. The reality is that the smarter we are, the more stubborn we are in not changing our minds, and constantly seek feedback to support our claims. This could be called confirmation bias and motivational reasoning. Living today, we have access to more information than any other time in history, and I hope that the expansion of information does not polarize us and create rifts, but rather unites us in pursuit of the truth, which, in my part, might be wishful thinking. Oh well, wishing you all well. Daniel.